Hey there, this is Andrew Chason with Andrew Chason Design. I've been wanting to do video tutorials on the things that I know about Photoshop for a long time. After all, I think that information should be free, education too. That's how I came to learn many of the things that I know just by people being willing to share what they've learned over the years. Thus, we create this economy of sharing our secrets. I don't think there should be trade secrets. So this is the first in what should be, Lord willing, many tutorials. So this came up because a user on Google Plus saw the maps that I had done. Here's an example of one. Cartography and creating maps for board games and role-playing games is kind of a secret passion of mine, one that I don't get to strut out in the open often. So you can see this is kind of a map of either an entire planet or just a pushed in, a zoomed in section of some atolls and islands here, and it's very tropical. That was my intent. I particularly love these three little lakes here. And here's the ice planet. This is actually what it started with. And this is just a technique that I've built up over the years. It's by no means perfect, and I'm willing to perfect and refine it with input from you. So as you go along, if you've got a secret, please share it in the comments. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. I'm going to try and make it as succinct as possible, but it's really to show you all that, well, how this technique works. Now, a little up front, this doesn't really work as well if you've got the shape of your land predetermined. If I wanted to recreate Middle-earth or Westeros, I wouldn't use this technique. I might use a couple of its subdisciplines, but I wouldn't use this technique. This works if you just need a quick planet, if you need it to look hot, and you have no idea, kind of a procedural generation. And in fact, there's some math behind the filters I use that I don't understand. I just know how to make it do what I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and open a new document, and let's just go to, well, a good presentation size, especially if you're going to print this off for your own gaming group. Let's make this, no, I got that backwards, don't I? 11 by 17. And we don't necessarily need it 300 dpi right now. It'll save our own sanity with some of the filters that we're doing to make it 72. So here we go. And here's our canvas. Here's what we have. Now, the first thing we're going to do, go ahead and hit D, and that will set your color swatches back to the default black and white. And we're going to use black and white quite a bit in this design. And let's just do render clouds. Render clouds. Alright, so now we're almost there. We're almost where we want to be. Let's duplicate this though, and we're going to need to save this for later, I think. So if you're new to Photoshop or not as experienced as others, I know that I considered myself a Photoshop master for years, and there was a lot of things in image mode that I was using. One of the best ones, all these adjustments, look at these. These adjustments are very powerful, and we can go to levels and watch this. Look at how we can start clamping the land here. If you can imagine that the black is water and the land is white, maybe, or maybe even we want to inverse that. Imagine that maybe we'll flip this around and the black is land and the white is water. So yes, you can come up to image adjustments and do that, but that's destructive editing. That's the notion that once you do that, you can undo it, but if you get down the line, you can't undo it if you get several actions in. So what I didn't know early on, and I've been using for years since then, is there are these layers, this kind of yin-yang symbol split in half, the black and the white. Click here and go to levels. What does this do? Well, this is the same kind of thing, only it's a layer that you can turn on and off, and now we're going to do it here. Let's clamp this down. Let's clamp it, play with this. I really encourage you, if you're playing the home game, to just do this and get the results that you think you like. Maybe I want to see, maybe these islands, maybe I want them more connected instead of little islands, because see how they're, maybe I want to come up here and clamp this more. Okay, maybe I like that. Alright. And yeah, this does. It looks like islands. So knowing that, see, now we have over here these levels. And we can even hold Alt to make sure that it gets applied to just this layer. What would I do next? Alright, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control-I to inverse this, to invert it. That's interesting. Why does that not do what I want it to? Alright, that's the way it looks. Alright, I'm going to hold Shift to select both of these, Control-E to collapse them. Actually, no, that's not right either. Okay, yeah, we're just going to go with this. So we need a copy of this, and then we're going to collapse these. See, I have this turned off. Let's inverse this. Okay. This is super important. This is going to become the base of everything that we do from now on. Let's hit Control-A to select the entire canvas, and Control-C to copy it. We want to come over here to our channels, and we want to save this selection for later. Let's go ahead and make a new channel. This little button down here, and we're going to hit Control-V to paste that in. Alright, so now what do we have going on? See, if you saw this channel, you can see it says Control-6. So let's hold Control-Alt-6 and get that selection. Good. Now, let's go ahead and hit this mask button down here, this little grayish circle with a white dot in it. It's going to make a mask out of our selection. See that? And now it's taken what was white and saved it. Everything that was black is see-through, and everything that is white, kind of like using masking tape, where we've put the black, stuff is going to be able to get through. And in fact, uncheck this tiny little link. Uncheck that so that as we do stuff to this, we're not going to mess up our mask. Let's hit Control-I. See? Now we're inverting that. And this is what we want. This entire technique uses what's known as height maps. And so this is, imagine that white is high. White is going to be your mountain peaks, and black is low, or going to be your ocean. As such, we want to come in here and apply another levels, non-destructive levels to this. Because now we're just going to clamp our land. In fact, we want our land to be mostly, we want to increase our peaks. So if you can get on board with that idea. And we want our sea level to be in line with the just above black. Get some variation in there. That's good. That looks okay. So there's going to be a couple things that I do that really accentuate the magic of this technique. And the first one is going to be gradient ramps. Now you saw my last two documents. I'll put links to those in the description if I remember. I hope I do. And so we did an ice planet, and we did a, what was the other one we did? Oh, kind of a tropics planet. Maybe we'll do kind of like a Mustafar. Maybe this will be a lava planet, and the technique should hold up. So the first thing we're going to do is come in and go to gradient map. Gradient map, yeah. And you can see the gradient map here. Nothing changed when we applied. Well, okay, there was just a subtle change when we applied this. Gradient map is powerful because it says that you've got this range of color, and at the bottom is black, and at the top is white, and it's going to replace all the black it sees, in this case with black, and all the white it sees with white. Seems kind of redundant, but look at what you can do. Let me drag this over from my other monitor. You can go in and start changing this. If this is going to be a lava planet, maybe we want kind of a deep red as our black. Oh, and I have this turned off for some reason. See? Automatically. And now, maybe we want kind of a dark brown. Let's just go in here and find a dark brown for a dirt. Maybe we want a dark brown as our land. So we can push this down more and more and more and see that the land starts with dark brown. Now let's imagine that on kind of the 45-degree slopes, ash has piled up. You know, this is a lava planet after all. And we'll take this a little more towards the orange. Here we go. We'll lighten the ash some. Yeah, let's go to brightness. Lighten it. Okay. Desaturate it some because it's too bright. And these little handles here are important too. They get to control how this clamps. You know, in fact, on the shore, maybe we want a hard edge. So that lets us push this down even more. And then we can push the ash down some. And then instead of snow, what if our peaks were kind of an exposed, desaturated, purpley pumice? It's probably dark. Again, not too purple in its saturation. And to really get that to shine, we need to just fiddle with this. Just go in, and this is where a lot of the fun and creativity comes from. Again, this technique is good for procedural generation. For when you want a quick, cool planet, but you don't want to have to really draw in the definitions. So, okay, we got some pumicey peaks. I think maybe they're just a bit too dark compared to our ash. And so this is step 2. So if step 1 was defining our land, okay, and then step 2, I guess, is getting it ready for the height map. Then step 3 is getting it colored the way we want. And there's quite a bit of contrast in this. This doesn't look as... You're probably not impressed with this, but there's 2 more major steps that will really help with this. And so here's the magic. Here's one of my trade secrets. Come to my browser and tear off a tab and go to one of my favorite websites. cgtextures.com. And this is where we're going to get some awesome things. So part of this doing this part is in imagining that some textures have the features you want, but not necessarily the look you want. We're not going to be able to come in here and find any lava textures, probably, but we can come in here and look for some cracked plaster. And yeah, I'm going to leave this on camera while I do this so that you can see exactly how and why I do certain things. So yeah, we're going to grab this 700 by 700. It's going to chew on it. It's going to download. Let's pop back over to Photoshop for a minute. One of the other things we want to do is prepare the ocean, because the ocean, when you're top down on it like this, is going to have some variation in it as well. Sometimes you're going to want that to follow the contour of your land, unless you will do a couple steps differently. Other times, maybe you want it to look different, kind of some coral or something going on. Again, that's not appropriate, or some coral going on. Again, that's not appropriate for what we're doing. But let's come in here and hold Control. Control is great because anytime you have a mask, you can use it to select what you're doing. We're going to hold Control and let's drag this layer up and do Filter, Render, Clouds. Okay, well, I just did that wrong. What went wrong? Well, we selected our mask. We actually want to come up here and go to Select, Inverse, and select the inverse of it. You might not have seen that much change, but now when we go to Filter, Render, Clouds, you can see that we're affecting the ocean. And in fact, let's do a Render Difference Clouds. Let's invert this and Filter Difference Clouds again. We're getting some really wacky variation in this now, and that's okay. We can turn our gradient map back on, and for this, go to Overlay. You're going to see that I'm going to use Overlay quite a bit. See, now we can push this down, put it down to maybe 25%. We just want a little bit of variation. Why do I use Overlay? Overlay is going to come up again in a minute, and it's important to understand this. Let me make a new document real quick. Just make it 800 by 800 pixels. A lot of times people, you're going to hear in Photoshop, let's just give this a 50% gray background. A lot of times you're going to see people, they want to use the dodge and burn tools to, especially if they're illustrating or doing digital painting. What does dodge do? Dodge comes in and it makes this, see how this is getting brighter? And I can change it to highlights and make it even brighter. Ooh, that's very nice. Shadows. Okay, let's lighten up those shadows some. Put in a happy little tree. Burn. Burn is going to do the opposite. Burn, let's start with the midtones. Now we're doing some shading. Why is this important? Well, it's great for digital painting. Let's get the shadows going on. Let's burn some deep shadows in there. Okay, this kind of looks like a ball. Alright. What did I do, though? This is a destructive, and I think it's very, very important to understand that there are normally ways to go about things, destructively and non-destructively. Look at this now. This is on this layer. I've gone ahead and essentially destroyed the first layer we had and remade it into something that we thought we wanted. But now if we want to make changes to this, subtle changes, or push this effect back some, it's darn near impossible to do. What's the other way to do it? Well, let's go ahead and make this like this again, and make a new layer. In fact, let's make a mask. Getting into the practice of making a mask, let's make a mask. And so now the only area we can affect is going to be this this ball. See? No, I guess you don't see. Here we go. See? Because of the mask, we can only paint on the red there. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. This is important, though, because Overlay lets you do the same thing. And an overlay layer, if I fill this with gray, okay, see this is gray, and if I set it to overlay, there's no change. I can turn this on and off. So in overlay mode, 50% gray is no change. And this is very important as you go on and you learn other matte painting techniques for Photoshop and whatnot. And so now let's do the same thing. In fact, I want to make sure that I get a soft brush, and we're going to paint on this. I don't have my stylus with me today, but we're going to paint on this with white. In fact, let's knock this down. I know you probably feel, man, he's getting sidetracked, but this is important. This is an important technique to learn. Maybe I should have made this a separate video. But see, we're going to paint on this, and the more we paint on it with white, the more we're going to build up that effect. And now, see, this is the equivalent of dodging, only you're doing it on a layer that you can actually turn on and off. And maybe this is too hot of a highlight. Maybe let's just knock that down some. And we can do it on the exact same layer, but again, in keeping things separate so that we can affect the two effects at once. Let's come on here, set this to overlay, and paint in some highlight, or some shadows rather. Same kind of thing. And maybe someone says, "Oh, well, it's too much shadow." Okay, well, now we have control. Now we have control that we can knock it back with opacity, and maybe make that 50%. And come in here, and maybe we do that, but then now we do it again. So here we go. See, really looking nice. All because of overlay. Well, why the hell is overlay important to what we're going to do with this map? Well, because this effect, let me show it to you here. That's pretty garish. That's a lot closer to something that we would want. And now we knock it down. I'm about to do a lighting pass on this that blows most people's minds. It's what sells this entire effect, and is probably, it helps you make realistic looking maps. When I do that, overlay is going to be important. So in fact, about that, let's come to this. We're gonna turn off all these other layers until we get back to kind of our default height map. In fact, let's merge these. This is a height map that we like. And I'm going to hit Control A, and I'm going to hit Control Shift C. Control Shift C. That ding means it's not doing what I want. Control A, Control Shift C to copy the entire canvas. So that supersedes any layers or layer effects you have going on. It copies everything. We're going to put this on top. Okay, you didn't see anything changed, but I just put that on top. Okay, so now let's do non-destructive levels. And for this part, we want to kind of keep our mid-range. Remember, our gray is our shorelines. We want to keep our mid-range at about 1. It's going to move as we slide the black, but that's okay. And we want to pop this up. No, I'm doing that wrong. I'm sorry. We want to grab this slider and move it up. And this is important because as we do this, we're pushing the water, the transition of the water up towards the coast. Because we're going to use this in a minute. Okay, so here's this non-destructive edit. Let's do Control A to select everything again. Control Shift C to copy the whole thing and put it on its own channel. So Control V, and now it's its own channel. You'll see again in just a moment why this is important. And in fact, if we feel we did this with confidence, we can just throw these away. All right. So now turn our gradient map back on. We're not impressed with this technique. There's our water. Make a new layer. Make a new layer and make it 50% gray. If you don't know how to do that, in fact, I have this whole line down here. It's just 50% gray because I use it a lot. What you want to do is you want to come in here and maybe this is set to something. You want to make sure that your hue is, well, it can be set to anything. Let's just take that to 0. Let's make this sure the saturation is 0 and the brightness is measured in percent as well. We want to make this right in the middle, 50% gray. Say OK. No, Alt backspace if it's your foreground color. We'll fill that in for you. And now, let's set this to overlay. Turn it on and off. Nothing happens. All right. Set it to normal. Here's where the magic is. So part of this, imagine this is a planet of some kind. In fact, you don't have to imagine that the whole view is the planet, but this is helpful. Go to Render Lighting Effects. Now, I wish that in subsequent versions of Photoshop they would make this bigger. You cannot grab the edges. This preview is always kind of small. But this is your light. See, this is a light, kind of like a spotlight, kind of like a stage light. And you're going to grab this, you know, let's just, both my maps do this, why not be consistent? Um, what do we have here? The middle is kind of where the fall off begins for your light, and these edges are how round it is. So we're going to want it to be pretty round, and the light starts at this point here. So we'll pull it out. And see, now it's this nice subtle gradient. You got a lot of options over here though. So maybe we'll take the intensity down to where the highlight, the hot spot, isn't so bright. We can take the focus to actually be wider. We want a wider focus, not too many hard shadows on our world, for this map anyway. Glossy, it's kind of good to keep this right in the middle, unless you've got some really exposed crystal mountains or something. You'll see why in just a sec. Material, I tend to lean a little towards the metallic, that way you get some hot spots and flakes in there, because, you know, dirt is, you know, it's got exposed minerals and whatnot in it. Exposure, leave that in the middle. And ambience is kind of like intensity. And again, we want a soft gray color in there. Here's where the magic happens. Texture channel. We had alpha 1 and alpha 2. In fact, alpha 1, there's our land masses, and if you can see this, you've got some really hard fall-offs around the edges of the land masses because it went from 50% gray to black. And that's what a height map does. It dictates that black is low and white is high. But because we brought the difference between the water and the coast up in our other one, this is not so pronounced. And this is the kind of stuff we want. In fact, let's drag this up, this flat and mountainous, to about 75. Good. Hit OK. Look at that. Isn't that hot? And I really can't claim credit for it. I didn't do much. But yeah, this is neat looking. So, what do we do now? You know, a couple things. The coast and the water is not, there's still kind of a hard edge. We can come in with a blending brush and change that if we need to, or even with a blur brush, I'm sure. But that's a little bit of work. We're going to be here for a while if we try that. In fact, maybe I'll just do it on this one land mass. And it also, if you don't have your blur set right, you're going to destroy the magic later on. I mean, we really want to use this to our advantage. This looks neat, but it looks even better when you set it to overlay. Yeah, that's neat looking. It's getting all the fine details of your world in there. And yeah, maybe we come in here and blur these edges some. We wouldn't have to blur these edges if I had gotten the, if I had reconciled over on our alpha map, if I had reconciled this edge differently or better. You know, with this demo, it's going to be a, you know, we're thinking that it's going to be a lava world, like where Luke and Obi-Wan fought, or Luke finally became Darth Vader. So that's okay. I really like these isolated lakes here. I'm not going to do this all over for this demo, though. Maybe, you know, with most of the world being a ball of fire or like a young star, it's okay that we have these sharp contrasts between, you know, maybe all of these continents end in 30-foot cliffs down into lava. Okay, fine. Again, this demo is about procedural generation, so you get to, you're not starting out with too much predefined, you know, in as much as we knew we wanted a lava planet starting out. And so here's the before and after. And in fact, we can push this down some. Take this down to like 66% for a lot of things. Alright, so now the next portion. And, you know, we went over to CG Textures. We downloaded this plaster. It's right down here. I'm using Chrome. And in fact, you can take that and just drag it over there and drag it here. That's on its own layer. We don't probably want it this big. So now I'm going to do a thing. Oh, the other important thing is that the textures from CG Textures, most of them tile. So I'm going to take this down here. What did we do? Well, when it came in, it gave us some handles. So the handles are already there. We're going to reconcile this into the bottom corner. And we're going to hold Shift as we drag and say, maybe we want one patch to be about that big. Okay. What do? I hold down Alt and drag and make a clone and get that lined up. And Alt and drag and make a clone. And there's a better way to do this, but it also creates, I mean, we could take the selection and define a pattern and then do a pattern fill, but I actually don't like having a ton of predefined patterns. So we're going to make a column. There's one column. We're going to take all of these plaster whites over here, hold Shift on the first one, click on the bottom one, Control E, reconcile those down. Now we're going to do the same kind of thing. This is one layer. We're going to drag it horizontally. I like to save time when I get about 3 of them. Do that. Do the same thing. Now I'm dragging 3 at a time. This doesn't have to take a long time. I don't ever think that this process is a waste of time. Hold Shift as you drag, though, to make sure that you are dragging it straight over. Hold Shift as you drag, though, to make sure that you're dragging it straight over. Here we go. And set this to overlay. Now it's important that we have these masks. We saved the mask out earlier, so Control-Alt-6. Click on your layer, Control-Alt-6. Oh, Control-Alt-6, there we go. And make a mask. Now our mask isn't affecting the area we want it to, so click on the mask itself and Control-I. There we go. Now we're just affecting the shore, or the water rather. And we can begin to play with this effect. It's overlaid. Let's make a levels brush. Now, if we come in here and we mess with the levels, we're going to affect the entire document. See that? But if we click on Alt and in this and hold Alt, and click in the space between these two layers, we're going to say this effect. Let's see the downward arrow only affects this layer. So now as we drag this, we're getting the effect we want. I mean, now this is great for a lava planet. Look at that. You know, dark ocean. You think it's solid like ice. You think, oh, I can go and walk out on it, but you know, you never know how thin the lava is. And maybe that's once you set some ground rules for the eye, it's easy to reconcile some of these styles. So maybe the black is where the lava is the thickest, and the kind of medium stuff, medium red, is where it's the thin, and you know, the bright red is where it's actually poking out. Okay. Well, see, that was just one. Let's call that a material. That was just one material, and now we've done the ocean. Let's try something else that I like to do too. You could see this on the tropics planet, and I purposefully didn't do it on the. I didn't do it on the ice planet. Let's make a new layer, and let's make it black. We're going to make the Control-Shift-5 selection. Nope. Control-Alt-5. What are we doing? Oh, Control-Alt-6. If you're ever in doubt, go to your channels and look. 6. And we're going to hit Control-Backspace to fill with our background color. There's our white. Now this is a technique, or this is a filter rather, called Find Edges. We're going to go to Stylize, Find Edges. I thought that normally gives us a dialog. Find Edges, glowing, maybe glowing edges is what I normally use. I do this so often that sometimes I never know. I mean, so there we go, glowing edges. Here we go. And now we get to play with the width. And so, why am I doing this? This is so that we can target an area that's off the coast and affect just it. And let's play with the smoothness of it too. We kind of want it to be blobby and round. Say OK. And this is an area. Let's first of all, let's blur it. Gosh, on blur to get a nice transition. And what else? Oh yeah, and then Control Alt 6 and Alt backspace. Yes, we want to make where the continents are black because we just want this to become a layer mask for what we do next. So a layer mask. Let's go ahead and shut it off. Let's go back to CG Textures and find something find a texture we can use for the shore. And maybe the shore has some really bubbly lava coming out of it. What do we have? Well, some of these crumpled plastics look good for waves. We could use real water and then just color it some obscene orange. In fact, these foamy patterns might look good. When in doubt, one of the other things you can do is go look at reference photos. I preach reference photos because they're invaluable. Let's grab this texture and see how we can play with it. We're going to drag it on here. Do the same kind of thing. Only maybe this time we don't need it to be so darn small. So we're just going to shift the drag, maybe twice as big as the last one was. Alt to make a clone, drag to drag it, shift to constrain it. Here we go. And sometimes when you get to an edge like this, if you don't want to make yet another copy, you can just hit Control T and drag it that way. Drag to fill in the difference. You want to get this. I want to make sure that it's fairly seamless. I can already see one place on the magma layer that I may have messed up. You probably saw it too. You can see a line in it. And maybe that's enough dragging. We selected all of them. We hit Control E to merge them down. Here we go. Alright, so why did we do all that? Well, we're going to come in here, Control A, Control X, Control A, Control X, Control, we're not clicked on the right layer, okay, Control A, Control X to just get rid of that. No, well, what did we do? We didn't just get rid of it, we didn't throw it away, we made it for a reason, we cut it. So we copied it to the clipboard, but it's not visible anymore. Now we're going to come, click on the water foam, see there's one of those seams in there that I didn't reconcile properly, and we're going to make a mask. Here's a mask, and we're going to hit Shift, nope, it's Alt, hold down Alt and click, and we're going to get this white layer. Again, white says that everything is coming through on this layer. Control V to use this selection. Click back over here. And now you can see our selection. It's subtle. It's maybe it needs to be more. Let's go ahead and clone this on top of itself and push it out more. Now let's do it one more time too. See, now we're really starting to get the effect that we want. And we can clone these down. Maybe. Yeah, I think that was the right way to do that. And let's do screen. And in fact, let's make a non-destructive layer, hue saturation, clamp it to this, colorize it, and we're going to make it orange. We're going to make it highly saturated. We can knock the brightness back, make it orange, knock the brightness back. There you go. If I was good, I would have been naming these as we went along, if I was really a good teacher. You got a mess of stuff going on over here. Luckily, I know the gradient map. Let's play with the gradient map again. And luckily, we can do that. We can come back here, and again, so this is the joy of non-destructive editing. We didn't colorize. We could have gone up to Image, Gradient Map, and colored our land. but it would have not been good. Or we can come here. What did I just do? Okay, let's make that a little darker. But okay, anytime you want to clone one of these, cloning, again, just like outside of this dialog, hold Alt, drag. And let's maybe add one more. I like to come to luminosity and drag this down and make some dark patches of exposed obsidian. Get that right about in the middle. That in the middle. And drag that down some. I don't feel that our shore lines are dark enough, so I'm going to come in and I want to make this darker. I want to make the transition from the bright lava to the. Oh, and you know why? Okay, so again, this thing here is you can't see me pointing at my screen. This is like the black and the white on both ends, with the middle being about 50% gray. And we started our coasts at about 50% gray, so we need to drag this up. See, there we go. There's some ash, and drag this up too. And as we drag this up, it's going to get darker. Now we've left this way down here, and that's okay. Yeah, that's looking good. And then we have our ash, our exposed ash, our dirt and rock, and bring that down, and even bring this down some too. So you can see the tallest and most exposed peaks are actually down here in the south. That's really dark. I'm okay with that. I'm really liking this, and of course the whole effect is really multiplied by this overlay effect. In fact, we can turn this up some now to really get it to sell itself. Not all the way up. Let's turn it up to 75 instead of 66%. Okay, pause just a second for a drink. Maybe I cut this part out of the video. Alright, well, what next? What do we do now? Well, we get even more textures playing on this. The texture is, at the end, what really sells it. It's what makes this super hot. So what do we got? We have some dirt. We know we have some dirt. Let's come back over here and get another texture. Here's some ground. Wood chips, gravel, ice, snow. Let's look at gravel. What do they have? Some gravel. Some brownish dirt. It doesn't hurt to go with something that's already similar to what you know, what effect you know you're going to want to push. So our first real layer here is going to be gravel. And it downloaded. Let's grab it over, do it. Let's make it so. What do we have going on? Well, first of all, this is not in the right place because we were on this layer. So make sure you have your top layer selected. Drag it over, put it in there. I drag it over from the browser because I'm lazy. If you were more organized than myself, you might even save these things to a folder so you can reuse them. These files aren't very big. For a free account at CG Textures, you get to download 16 megs a day. I had a paid account at one point when I was making 3D models for a living. And again, Alt, Shift, Drag. Doesn't matter if there's a little bit of overlap. It's better to have a little bit of overlap than an underlap. Shift, Control E to reconcile those, and overlay. See, it's already looking pretty neat. The noise that's in photos is good. It's already looking neat, but it's applying that to places we don't want. Control Alt 5. Click on the thing. Control Alt 5. Nope, Control Alt 6. I'll learn someday. It gets us our land masses back, and now we can add a layer mask. And it's just being applied to where we want it to be, mostly. Now, what we're going to do now is apply this effect to, or try to, sometimes this fights you, to just the brownish areas. So how can we do that? Well, one of the ways is to come in here to the blending options. Let me move this onto my monitor. This is a powerful thing that I learned a couple years ago. This is kind of like logic, blend if, and it's saying how to affect the mask based on the material we have applied. So the underlying layer, it's going to look at all the layers underneath it, and like white, the whitish gray areas of the ash, we don't want it there. So let's start dragging this down and see how it's going away from there. Now the other nice thing, you can hold Alt and split this apart to get a subtle gradient going on there. Maybe we move this up some, move this down, and that doesn't look bad. We've got a little bit of it going on in our purples. We can come in here and with a soft brush, let's turn that up. On black, on our mask, we can paint that out to where it doesn't affect that area. You gotta go around and do that to everything though. Sometimes you can spend a lot of time fighting that dialogue. And so what you do is you come up with ways to work around it. So painting this stuff out by hand is one way that I've come up to do with that. And I think that's good enough. So now we've really got that on our coasts, that chewed up, noisy brown dirt color. Let's look at something clumpy for our ash. And maybe it's in here. Who knows? Again, you want to use these sometimes in unconventional ways. Clumpy ash. Let's look at what kind of scrap is there. Stone debris. Oh, this could be fun. Alright. So, large stony debris. Yeah, I think this is just the kind of thing that we want. This doesn't tile, but this is a perfect place for me to show you something. Another technique I use. I showed you about the overlay. Now let me show you how I get textures to tile, and they do this in the game industry quite a bit too. So I'm gonna drag this stone debris over to here, but then instead of dragging it over the canvas, I'm gonna drag it up here. Make an ass of me. Here we go. Okay, drag it up here. Okay, here we go. So, what's important is that we get this canvas size and we make it something nice and round. Let's make it 600 by 600. In fact, this is the image size. We want to make it square. Alright, so now it's square. And we want to copy this and go to offset. And we know that it's 600 by 600, so we can push it left, or push it right rather, by 300, and push it vertical by another 300, and you're going to get this seam. Well, let's make a layer mask, and again with our soft black brush, start painting this out. Okay, it's looking good. Now let's get a harder brush. I don't have my stylus with me, but then and you're not even going to see some of this variation with how small we're going to make this, but this is a good lesson to learn. Now with the harder brush, then you can get certain details to pop. That first thing was just a little too subtle, but it got rid of that gnarly seam. And now this mostly looks like it tiles. This is great. Let's merge these down and do an offset again, and if we see any seams, then we know we didn't do the job. No real seams. Okay, so Control A to select all, Control Shift C, and here we go. We're going to put this to use, Control V. And let's get it as big as we want it. I can imagine it being about that big, tiling all over our map. That should be fine. So, you know, I do this thing so often, I might even be able to set up Photoshop actions to make this part go faster. Part of this video is you're going to see me doing this a lot, and maybe I shouldn't. You should work smarter and not harder, and that's the other invitation I have for you. If you know a better way to do the stuff I'm doing, tell me. Share it with me in the comments. Send me a link to a tutorial. Feel free to show me examples of your own work. I am a strong proponent in community and sharing, and yeah, so here we go. And you know, even in some games you've seen, oh man, this is tiling. You can totally tell the tiling, the repeating nature of it. That's not going to be as visible when we clamp it down to a specific portion of our map. Control-Alt-6 again, see I can learn something. Make a mask. Come in here, blending options, and let's start playing with this. We don't want it on the darkest parts, so we're going to push this way. We don't want it on, we want it just a little bit on some of the whitest parts. Let's split this to get a nice gradient going on. Even split that there. Push it down some. Okay. It's not looking bad. Some really big chunks, sure. But now, and again, the magic. Set it to overlay. In fact, we can even push the effect down just a little bit. 66% is fine. I don't know why I love it so much. And look at this. Here it is at 100%. It's really looking good. Now, the last kind of texture that I want to add is some sort of variation to the what we're calling obsidian. Get that looking like a hard crystalline structure. What do we have going on? Let's look at over at CG textures. Back to their textures. Rock. We'll look at their rocks. And let's look at their jagged rocks. Okay, I really like this with the, this is swept in a particular direction. The only issue I would have is that it would insinuate that all the rocks on the planet are swept in the same direction. And maybe it is. Maybe there's a harsh solar wind. Let's run with it. We can always just come in and undo it. Again, we're going to need to do the tiling technique on this one. So we're going to drag this out, drag it up here, image size. Let's just do 600 by 600. Not bad. Offset. Yep, we already have some fixing we need to do. I didn't even see that little bit of green in there before. Come up to our soft round pressure opacity and make a mask. There we go. And start getting rid of this. And kind of go with the grain of these jagged structures. Let's get a harder brush. Whoa. Control Z to undo. And just want a subtle cleaning of the edges of some of this. Alright, that's not really working out the way I wanted, but okay, so Control E to merge, Control A, Control Shift C to copy the whole thing. Come back over here. Control V. What did we do wrong? Oh, yes, this happens sometimes. This background layer is locked. You need to double click it, go to layer, you don't need to name it, just hit OK. Control A, Control Shift C again. There we go. Control V. We're nearly done. See, I want this effect to be rather large. I want you to really be able to see it do its magic. And here we go. that. I don't think you're going to find any happy little trees on this planet. If you've seen the star map that I did for Nova Praxis, I did this technique with all of the little planets that I made. And that thing had to print at 300 dpi. So here we go. Here's another layer. Control-Alt-6 to get our land masses. Make a mask. Go ahead and set it to overlay. Why not? We can do that now. Okay, but we want to clamp it down. In fact, let's unoverlay it so we can see where it's going to end up better. Blending options. Blending options up here. Underlying layer. And this is where we're going to run into some problems because our dark obsidian tops are nearly as dark as our coasts, and this effect really just plays off of how bright the pixels are underneath it. So we're going to clamp this way down because we don't want it affecting our ash layer much. And again, we've got these separated so we have a nice gradient. And we can try and bring it up some, but we're going to run into some issues. So let's go ahead and set this to overlay. It's not too bad. I don't feel too bad about this. And the other thing we can do, like we did with the other layer, to save our sanity, come in here with some black and on the mask and paint out these coasts because we don't want it necessarily affecting them. Now, speaking of coasts, I'm seeing that we don't have our ash layer knocked back far enough, so our coasts are really covered with this large debris, which is okay. But I picture these rocks being flung nearly straight upwards and then coming down and resting on the slopes of these mountains. And that's what you want because you want variation. So if this one texture is gonna account for most of your land mass, then you're not gonna see the reader, the looker, the observer is not gonna really see that in here much, or it's going to see too much of of one texture. So in fact, now that we've got this going the way it is, let's come in here and try and push it back some. I've done a poor job of it because I was looking at something else. So I have two monitors for this reason, so I can keep all my options off to the side. In fact, maybe we need to push maybe we need to push the subtlety of our dirt map up some. There we go. That's what was going on. Okay, so the other thing is maybe our overlay for our ashen layer is too strong. Sometimes you're going to get these textures that have their own color variation, and you really want to play on that, and sometimes you don't. So you can always click on the mask or on the layer itself, not the mask, and Control-Alt-U. No. Control-Shift-U? Yeah, to desaturate the layer altogether. Let me show you that one more time. I'm going to click on, let's set this to normal, and turn off the mask. Control-Shift-U, and we've desaturated it. And that's okay, because the underlying color is brownish anyway. See, now that's much darker. Maybe we like that. Maybe we don't. So we're practically at the end. It's just fiddling with, it's just noodling with the techniques here. Seeing what you like, what you don't. Getting it right the way you want it. Adding more and more textures. Let's look at this. Yeah, I don't hate this. In fact, some other things I might do. Another thing I might do is come in here and do add some larger variation to the lava layer. I don't think there would be a problem with that. In fact, where did we define that at? Right here. Let's push this up some. And let's go look for one more texture. I saw, yeah, cracked soil. This is neat looking. Might be able to really use this. This should be good. Let's get some cracked soil going on and drag it here. No. No. See, okay, so I've been bad and I haven't kept my stuff grouped well. So we want to take everything that pertains to the landmass, hold Shift and hit Control-Z and throw it in a group. This could be a group all on its own. This is, you have to name your groups. So white, effects, land. From here on, we've got textures. So textures. See how clean this is? This is much cleaner. This helps you save your sanity. We can even have subgroups. I should have done that a while ago. I apologize. So, grab our cracked soil, throw it in here. We want it to be about that big. I'm trying to see, you know, how well the variations is going to read. Okay, when you sharpen, when you make something small like that, sometimes you want to sharpen it. So come down to Filter, Sharpen. This is going to make the details stand out better. In fact, something I learned from an old fart a long time ago. Make a clone of it, sharpen it again. Now it's really sharp, almost too sharp. Now we can knock that down by 50%. And do that until it doesn't look good anymore. And then back off. You know, do it one too many times and then undo it. Okay. Yeah, you've seen me do this process a few times. You know, my next video tutorial I do might not be in real time like this. Maybe, you know, I don't do video tutorials. This is my first one, so maybe I just need to do it and then tell you about it. Do a voiceover, that kind of thing. What are we using this for? I want to give some more variation to the lava layer to really make it pop. To add the sex, like Steve Jobs would have said. Control-6. And we know we don't want it on our land, we want it on our lava. Alright, sorry for the brief interruption. Where were we? Yes, lava layer. So we already know that we don't want this affecting our land. Let's do Control-I, and now it's just affecting our lava. Good, good, this is fine. this is exactly what we want. However, Control-Shift-I, nope, Control-Shift-U, come on, oh, yeah, I was clicked on the mask, Control-Shift-U on the layer, and now, similarly to how we were before, we're going to do a gradient map, sorry. And let's do our white as a dark purple. We can desaturate it some, it doesn't need to be that bright. Or that colorful rather, but it does need to be dark. And our blacks, let's make that yellow. And then we're going to do orange. And then we're going to do red. And now we're going to slide these clamps around to really get this to do as we need it to. And even let's just even throw some black in there. And look at that, that's looking really nefarious. I'm digging that. So, in fact, maybe we'll put a hard edge on our yeah, that's looking great. We want this to transition just about like that. Now, you can see it's affecting everything. And while that's really neat looking, it's not what we want. So we want to come here and click on Alt and just affect that layer. And let's collapse this. Okay, so this is what we have. Let's try an overlay. Nope. Now we start to play with these and see how we can get the most awesome out of our... I'm thinking maybe we want to do screen. Yeah, look at that. Or even a soft light. Nope. So screen looks pretty good. And we can push this effect back some too. Maybe only affect the darkest colors. Remember, look at this again. Remember we were talking about these dark patches being the crustiest, the hardest, and the rest being more like liquid lava. So maybe we come in here and we hit underlying layer and we get rid of the brighter areas. Yeah, holy goodness, see? And please just go away. I had no idea that this was going to happen, but it's looking really hot. And that's just because of how we, a lot of it is knowing, having an idea about an effect, but having the courage to do it and play around with it. I think that's looking awesome. The one other thing that I don't really like is this lighting effects layer. I mean, I like it, we need it, but it needs to be more. Maybe I'll even come in here and with the levels, make the darks a little darker. And the whites a little whiter. Oh. Because you really should have that. This might change everything. Okay, I didn't change too much. We really should have this be the last thing that goes on top of everything. Sorry that you've had to sit through nearly an hour-long video to get that sort of wisdom. I should have had some of this technique written down better. But now you can see, okay, so here's our land. Let's just go through this one layer at a time. So what did we do? We defined where our land would be. And then we put on a gradient. No, we put on some clouds. and then we hit that with a gradient map and defined the material of our world. We decided it was going to be a lava world. And we even put some variation on our water, or in this case lava. And then one at a time, we came in and we put in some textures. So here we changed the lava some, and here's some levels to clamp that down. We defined the coast, kind of rich orange area. We hit the dirt with the texture. We hit the ash with a kind of a big rocky texture. If I did this again, maybe I'd make that a little smaller. Those are some rather large clumps. And then our obsidian has its own kind of rough texture to it. Again, we can knock that down just a little bit. And then we came in here and defined that the darkest areas of our world would get this kind of lava texture. And I'm still noodling with, but I think this just adds a whole new level of attractiveness to it. And then we have our lighting effects. I think that's good. I mean, part of arting, part of doing this, is knowing when to stop. I don't think this is perfect. You know, I would like to come in and in fact, yeah, I'd like to come in and make this effect stronger, better. Just overall. Oh, and layer order has everything to do with it. There we go. All right. Yeah. So. Get a couple of these going on here. Yeah, that insinuates something completely different. So. Lava planet. If I were to do this on my own without giving a tutorial, I probably would have taken twice, if not 3 times as long, just messing with our options. But this has you can get the gist of this. I'm always exploring new techniques. I rather enjoyed doing this and doing it for you and hoping to share any nuggets of wisdom that I have gleaned along the way. Sorry, my voice has gotten a little more quiet and hoarse as I did so. So, my name is Andrew Chason. I have a one-man design shop, Andrew Chason Design. I'm doing logo design, business card design, website design, but my secret love is illustration and role-playing design. And in the future, we have some things that are leaning towards getting me to be able to do more of that. I'll tell you about it. So if you like this kind of stuff, please go to Andrew Chason Design and look, andrewchasondesign.com, and look around. Like this video, like my pages on Facebook and G+, Andrew Chason Design, and just stay in the loop and let me know what you liked or what I could do better or some cool technique that you came up with. So, please subscribe, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Thank you very much for giving me all your time. Be well.